This is food. This is beans.
Adrian, The Last of Us on HBO, Season 2, Episode 3. Our review starts now. What did you think? What did you think of that episode? Episode 3.
Yeah, I mean, it's dealing with the aftermath of episode 2. Some pretty big stuff happened. And I think the way this episode played out, I liked some of it, and then I kind of didn't love some of it either, which I'm happy to dive into a little bit more. I think, again, the scenes that follow the video game to a T continue to be the best scenes of the TV show, of this season of the TV show, unlike where I felt with the first season. Everything whenever they deviated from the game, that was the best parts. But again, this was an emotional episode. I got tears in my eyes watching it kind of play. And I thought the pacing of it was pretty great. It felt like a setup episode, and I'm excited to see kind of how the rest of this story is going to unfold and kind of the changes that they might be making. And I really want to hammer home the point. The casting is phenomenal. I can't, hammer that point home enough. I think the casting of this show is brilliant. I think some of the new characters that they introduce for the show, Gail specifically, played by Catherine O'Hara, is a delight. There's a lot of good in this show, but again, there's enough keeping me back from actually being in love with it like I loved the first season. What did you think about this episode, my friend?
I thought it was good. It's good. I think that there was a lot of excellent imagery on the cinematography side. I think they did a great job there. I do agree with you. It's like a recovery episode from the big splash of episode 2, for sure. And it feels like a world building type exercise, which is cool. And the characters have a lot of great chemistry with each other, and they feel real. There's an element of them feeling real. The relationships feel real between the characters, which I particularly love. I think that Gabriel Luna is consistently a standout for me. I don't know what it is. He's got when he's not speaking, he's got he emotes very, very well. And every scene he's in, I'm captivated. I feel like he's really great. And it was an emotional episode. I thought it was solid. Not a lot we can say again as the season goes on. We have less and less we can say because it kind of could potentially go into spoilers. But yeah, it's it's good. It was good. I liked it. I have a lot to say on the spoilers side of things, but yeah. Anything else you want to add?
No. I guess if people listen to my last week's episode, and my opinions on last week's episode, I've honestly actually soured on it more. I'm actually more negative on it than I was last week.
So you didn't like episode 2 even more than?
Yeah, even more than I initially stated.
Okay.
And yeah, I think I even mentioned it last week that it might be my least favorite episode of the season. It still is. But yeah, the more I've thought about it, the less I like. And okay. This episode I think is a better episode. I liked it more. But again, there's other things that are holding me back. So yeah, I'm excited to dive into this a little bit more with you. I'm curious to hear your criticisms of the episode because you've been pretty hot on this season compared to me. So
yes, this episode, just to note, I guess, is directed by Peter Hoare, who directed some episodes of Doctor Who. He's a little bit lesser known from the other directors we've had, and this one was also written by Craig Mazin as well, just like the last two. So Craig Mazin writes basically the first 5 episodes, unless the source here is wrong. But actually, interestingly, the next episode, if I'm not mistaken, that's interesting. It's Kate Herron, who I'm pretty sure is the director for. I thought she was a Loki director. Am I wrong?
I don't know.
Get to it when we get there. Yeah. She's the executive producer and director of the Loki series, the first season. That's kind of cool. But yeah, Peter Hoare, a little bit lesser known, but he did Doctor Who and a bunch of other things. It's interesting. Yeah, okay.
Jesus
Oh,
Christ.
uh-oh.
Sorry about that. Sort of whacked my microphone. Apologies.
All right.
Apologies, huh?
Now to the spoiler portion of our episode, or a closer look episode here. Let's just jump into spoilers. I'll give it a quick second for the animation to move around, and then we could jump in. I'll just start by saying that it was interesting, and I'm not going to say anything about this group of people, but there's those woods people, the people in the woods. Just the start of the spoilers real quick. I thought that the introductory sequence of them and then showing that they had a child and then murdering them with the child murdered, I thought that was a very consequential scene in this show, in this episode, and I thought that was really interesting. I thought that was really cool. I half expected the child to survive, but the child did not.
No.
Let's just say that. So it's interesting in how they went. I feel like that's not a huge part of the episode. That's why I wanted to start with that, because I just think it's kind of interesting that how that happened. That group of people was interesting in how they have these like religious beliefs, and they really introduce them. It reminds me of, anything when you do character development and then kill somebody, it always reminds me of that Jeff Winger scene in Community where he snaps the pencil in half and says, you know, it's just like if I told you this pencil's name was Jim and then snapped it in half, a little bit inside of you dies. Is what is the line. I'm sure I butchered that a little bit, but yeah, anyway, that's kind of like that. They introduce these characters and then they instantly kill them. I just thought that was a pretty interesting way to.
Yeah, like I think it's quite impactful to murder a child, like in anything, right?
Right, and so
this corpse of this child that we were just introduced to 50 minutes prior, it's tough to see, but
it's a foreshadowing of the dangers ahead potentially, which is really cool. There's like oh, you're all happy after this journey. Here's this dead child. Should you be happy? That's the question.
Yeah, but like as impactful that scene was, and again, like that final thing, I think this is going to be a common through line, at least for these first 3 episodes, where I feel like this show has a serious lack of subtlety that the game had. And everything, I feel like this episode solidified it for me, but this season of The Last of Us is made for a dumber audience than I feel like the first season was, and that the game is written for. I feel like the way that they're over-explaining, things, not only with these forest people that kind of showed up and them talking about, oh, this prophet, blah, 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 blah. There's no subtlety there, because when this group of people get introduced in the games, you don't know who they are. They just kind of appear, and then you figure everything out based on context clues. And I understand that this is a show, and I understand like you're not playing the character, but I feel like we could learn with Ellie watching the show and her finding these context clues with Dina. And I feel like because of that, we're losing a lot of the subtlety that the game had. And it's really, again, I just feel like this is being written for a dumber audience. And what really hammers, again, this point home for me is when they are having the scene, and it's Ellie like writes a note because they want to send 16 people from Jackson to go after Abby and crew to get revenge for Joel. And there's a scene where a guy, I think his name is like Carlisle, like stands up and he pretty much just says like on the nose, like revenge is bad and we shouldn't go after them. And that's essentially the running theme throughout the game, but it's never told to you. Like, why do we have to say this so and make it so obvious for the audience? Why can't you let the audience figure that out for themselves? It's not that deep of a message.
I don't know,
the way
man.
the game conveys that message,
that's a town council, right? So, like the town council meeting, a guy is standing up and he's saying his piece, and that's what he believes in, right? Because he believes in morality. It's not that crazy that somebody would do that.
I'm not saying that it's crazy that someone's doing that. I'm just saying that it's losing its, the subtlety that the game had around that messaging. That messaging is the point of the game. Like that is what the game is based on. And hammering that down our throats it makes it lose its impact. It's the same way of revealing that Abby is, her dad was murdered and that's why she's killing Joel and that she wants to kill Joel in the first scene of the first episode. I just think this this season is.
But they do reveal that in the game. It's not like they don't reveal it.
Yeah, but
I don't
far
really
later.
agree. Like this.
Yeah.
There is like I think you watched this too close to playing the game. It seems like to me. Like the game is also interesting because like the Abby situation. You play as Abby in the beginning of the game. You are helping her survive. There is nothing more intrinsically immersive, in my opinion, for me as an audience. That's why I felt like that episode was darker than I remember the game being. And she's a darker character to start. Because I played as Abby in the very beginning of the game. And I had to save her life personally. And so as a result, I was connected. So when she kills Joel in the game, I'm like conflicted because I just try to save her. And that's kind of the aspect here. So you have to do more, narratively speaking, to be able to make her more relatable and make her feel human in some capacity. In the case of the town meeting, I mean, that's not too unrealistic to think that this guy would stand up and do that. He doesn't want his child or whoever it may be to go out as one of the 16 people in that party. So he's got reasonings, and it makes sense. I mean, like this guy, he lives in a quiet town that generally they don't get attacked that much by people. I guess they haven't been attacked too well. I guess they did, but they have been. But it's not as drastic.
They talk about it. They even mention like raiders like might come and stuff.
It's not. But if you look at like just human beings, there's an idea that you could want to forgive. That's not a crazy idea. That didn't feel on the nose to me. It felt like a guy who would say that at a town meeting in regards to sending 16 of their people, like on a 14-day journey away to go kill people because of revenge. It's not that crazy. And then the fact that he is saying like it is for revenge, and then she stands up and says it's not. It's kind of the point because we all believe it's revenge as the audience. I don't know. I don't. But that's again, not my issue with this episode. I have issues with it, but that's not it.
Yeah, and I get where you're coming from, but again, it's when Gail is shown, Gail literally says like Ellie's a liar, like no, like I don't believe what she's saying. Like again, everything has to be over explained to the audience. I'm not necessarily saying that Gail scene was bad. I actually really like that scene. I really like Gail and the way Catherine O'Hara and Gabriel Luna played off each other was really, really awesome. And I think they had really good on-screen chemistry. And I like Gail as a character. But again, I just feel like this show it's dumbing down a story and a message that I think was just brilliantly done in a video game. And again, I've always been a big supporter of people changing, making an adaptation different. But I guess this one is just a little bit too close to home for me. Like I just love this game so much. I'm very biased, and it
does feel like you're very biased. I got to be real. Like, on the perspective, like you kind of want the exact thing, but we're never gonna get that ever, and we kind of have to like kind of separate ourselves a little bit from that aspect. I think I
don't want the exact thing. Again, like I like the changes that they did in the first season quite a bit. I just think these changes are unnecessary and don't make sense.
But those are on the nose. In the episode 3 of The Last of Us, season 1, is incredibly on the nose. The idea of the subtlety you're describing is exactly what that episode doesn't do. It explains to you something that we don't see in the game. That's what they have been doing. That they have been fleshing it out. That's kind of what they've been doing the whole time, I feel like. No?
Not necessarily. I feel like that episode in the first season, they changed that story entirely. And it's a beautiful story. It's well written. It's heartfelt. It's emotional. Like they didn't
change it entirely, to be fair. I just played the game. It's not that different. It's different, but it's not that different. It's
different.
It's different in that you don't see it because they teach you it in like
and the way it ends. The way it ends is very different, and then also the relationship between Bill and Frank is totally different as well. Because Frank
we don't see enough of the relationship to know that, right? That's the idea. That's the trick.
You see a letter that says that, like Frank writes to Bill that he wants to leave.
Agreed. The ending is different,
or does leave because he can't stand Bill anymore. And again, they changed that entirely. But again, talking about this episode. Again, what are your criticisms? Because that's really the main stuff that was bothering me.
My criticism is a criticism that's funny I'd never thought of until recently. And somebody had told me this when I was in a store at my job. And now I can't stop thinking about it, especially in the context of this episode, which handled it, in my opinion, I think might have been worse than the game. The travel makes no sense here. They travel for 14 days and they're showing these sunny little sunsets, and we're traveling 14 days by horseback. And 14 days is a long journey. You have 14 days of food. Do you have 14 days of supplies? You never ran into a single infected person or any other people on this journey. It's a little strange. It's Jackson, Wyoming to Seattle, Washington. It isn't close. This is a problem, in my opinion. I think that you really should have that episode should have been 2 episodes. The journey should have run into something along the way. But I think they didn't want to take away from the point of what the the story's about and the aspects of what's in the game. So they kind of just didn't do anything with that. They just were like, oh, we're just traveling. And then we had one night in a tent. It made it seem like they were actually just traveling for like 1 second. At the very least, they should have spread it out and showed a montage that was longer and showed them constantly sleeping in tents and being a little bit stressed out and have a little bit of anxiety. Because that kind of travel, I think if I was going on horseback in today's world, well, I guess today's world we have streets and shit, so it would be hard to go by horseback anywhere. Mm-hmm. But you know what I'm saying? It would be difficult to make that journey. And it's not like they're galloping anywhere. They're kind of walking the same pace as my like fast walking speed. So it's not that crazy. It's strange. You would think that they would have more anxiety. They just seem like they're having a fun old time. And I don't think that makes a lot of sense, especially in the apocalypse. But hey, that's my main issue. Other than that, it does feel like a recovery episode, as we discussed, which is interesting. My favorite thing about this is that it's just showing the absence of Joel. They don't show his face. They don't show a picture. They don't show Tommy's over his body, and they don't show the shot of his face like beat up. They just show Tommy's face. They show Gabriel Luna's. Mm-hmm. Brilliant. That part is really cool, and I like the absence of Joel aspect. But it just because it feels like such a recovery episode and a setup episode. It's not quite as good as the other episodes in this series, like season 1 or season 2, from my perspective. But yeah, didn't love the travel aspect. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's a little bit strange, and like for the perspective of pacing, that actually kind of ruins the pacing for me because it just doesn't it doesn't add up. Like the rest of the pacing of the episode made sense, I guess, but that part, no, I didn't like as much for sure.
Yeah.
But
did you all? That's fair.
Yeah. Sorry, do you have anything to say about the travel or any of that?
No. Like I it's funny because I never thought about that criticism until actually you mentioned it to me, like a few weeks back when we were talking about the game.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it is kind of interesting because never a single time did I think about that when I played through The Last of Us Part 2.
We don't live in the United States, to be fair, so like we don't look at the geography frequently. But like seeing it afterwards on a map, it's like, oh, it's like 14. It's like over 800 kilometers away. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, all right. It's kind of far to go in the apocalypse. But I'm like, oh, you know what they're going to do in the show? They're going to spread it out. And they literally didn't spread it out at all. There was no spreading it out. Like they just like, what are you thinking? That seems like poor planning from my perspective. But anyway.
It is interesting because this season's only 7 episodes. Like, it's weird. Like, I don't understand why they're trying to condense it so much. I feel like you could play around with it more and add more. Yeah, like I think that's what they should be doing. Is that they shouldn't be necessarily changing little things from the game that already worked. You should be adding to it. And that's maybe kind of my issue with this season as well. That's kind of frustrating to me. Like I want more of the world. That's why Gale is a super awesome addition. And I think really cool. Like this is a fantastic character that's added for the show. One of the best parts of this show, arguably.
Yeah, it's great.
So it's they should be doing more of that.
So one of the criticisms I have is last episode. I think last episode should have been episode 3. I think episode 2 should have established more of Joel. Because it's been I kind of said this before, but you had like a 2-year gap between the seasons, but you also had a 5-year gap inside the actual world of the Last of Us. Mm-hmm. So like this is something that's interesting. We are seeing in the trailers for this show, for The Last of Us, you see a whole bunch of shots of Joel and Ellie, things we haven't seen in this season. Mm-hmm. So presumably they must be doing some kind of flashbacks. I must say, one of my pet peeves in modern TV and movies, when we see this, and we see this a lot, and you see this a lot in actually Lost, a show I love. Mm-hmm. It really bugs me when you kill a character off and then you bring them back in some way through flashbacks. It feels gratuitous. I don't need that. I don't love that. Actually, it's kind of my least favorite thing about the Last of Us video game, actually. I don't
that's crazy.
dislike the scenes. I don't see them as useful. When it breaks up the action, and we already, what did it inform? And we can't really say because we're going to be spoiling it, but it doesn't really inform on character development because we've already seen all the character development that could happen with those characters if the character is dead. Now, not always, but oftentimes. So a good example for a character we don't know about is Abby. You were saying it's annoying that they showed, she said, you killed my dad. And like, if you show that in flashbacks, that makes sense because we don't know her at all. But we know Joel, and Joel doesn't have a future because he's dead. So there's no benefit on a character development perspective. And you're basically straddling a line when you're doing those kinds of flashbacks because at a certain point it becomes gratuitous. So this is the question I have is what are they going to do with these flashbacks and how wisely are they going to use them? I would have preferred, and I much preferred, that they did the dance scene, the New Year's dance in the beginning, in the first episode. Thought that was brilliant. Way better. Why would you put that at the end? Makes no sense to me. The rest of the show, they're going to obviously go back to Joel in some capacity. I don't know how much that's going to do for me personally. And I love that he's not in this episode for 1 second because it's a vacuum. They created a vacuum of where Joel was. It's the emotional vacuum. Great. Those scenes with Ellie like screaming in the hospital, and that scene with Tommy like looking over his body and then saying say hello to Sarah or whatever he says. It's just really heartbreaking. Oh, not only that, but the vacuum of the fact that the intro sequence, literally they show the at the very end how they've been showing that weird fungi and then showing two figures. They only show one figure in the intro sequence. Just genius, really smart play there, and really heartbreaking. And my fiance is actually the one who pointed that out, and I was like, that's really smart, like really, really cool. Let's just double down on making you feel the grief from last episode. But anyway, I went on a little diatribe there. If you've got anything to add.
Yeah, no, like I don't necessarily agree. I kind of like flashbacks that add a little bit more context to relationships and everything. I don't think it's necessarily about like Joel's character development as it is the development of like
Ellie.
Joel and Ellie's relationship.
Or
and
someone
I think
else. Sure.
The interesting, I think the show arguably needs the additional context way more than the game did. Because we actually didn't have as much time with Joel and Ellie together as we did in, playing through The Last of Us Part 1 as an example.
There's a solution for this. You put it in the game. You put it in the beginning of the show. Sorry. Yeah. Why don't have to do the flashbacks if you spread it out by one more episode, and then the episode 3 was your red wedding type situation.
Yeah.
Why do it so early? Like I'm okay with you doing some flashbacks, but I want to see some relationship at all. They never talk to each other in 2 episodes, and then he's hit by a golf club repeatedly and stabbed in the neck. Like, okay, cool. Like you want to make it hit home? That's how you make it hit home. You build a relationship a little bit more. You can even do flashbacks in the episodes where he's alive. No problem, because he's alive, so the audience doesn't know. You know what I mean? Like you could do it then because you're building the relationship between them in that time, and that's cool. But after he's gone, well, I mean, we know how much he meant to her.
I don't know.
It's already.
I can see where you're coming from. I don't agree with you personally. Like I don't see it that way. I think it adds a lot of like depth.
What does it add?
It pulls on your heartstrings even more because you know the outcome.
But we already know it. It's already over. Isn't that just gratuitous? You're just making you feel grief for grief's sake at that point.
Yeah, but that's okay because it makes you feel emotions. Like I think the way, at least again, like the game, how the game does it. I don't know how the show's going to play it, but when the game does those flashbacks, those are the saddest parts of the game, and it really tugs on your heartstrings because you're thinking of what once was and now can never be again. And I think cool. I don't know. I think those scenes are actually some of the most special scenes in the video game, and I hope they're
well designed. I agree with that.
Yeah,
they're good. I'm not saying they're bad in the video game, but they're just not they break up the pacing. It feels like a video gamey thing that a lot of developers do, is where they break up the pacing by just throwing in like, here, play this character that you've never played before in this side sequence. It kind of feels like that a little bit. It just not really is. It doesn't feel like as pertinent to the plot. It's kind of the trick. But again, they were smart enough to move the dance sequence to the beginning, so which is incredibly informative, like very informative and very smart to do that, because it informs the rest of the story. But yeah. I'm not saying I don't want any flashbacks. I do want them. I just rather see those scenes before, because they missed that opportunity, and I imagine it just makes the show a little bit weaker. I think they were worried about not doing what they did in episode 2, like by killing Joel. I think they were concerned that I don't know, people knew about it, so they'd have anxiety if they. I'm not sure what the deal was. Like they're trying to rush it. Like, let's rush into it. It's like, no, you don't need to rush into it. You could take your time a little bit more. And then kind of go from there. Even like the aspect of like having the infected rush Jackson is kind of interesting, because you kind of didn't, the establishment of the fact that the ground network would just like pull in these infected so quickly. I feel like it could have been maybe they could have taken their time with that a little bit to kind of impend the doom, I suppose. But yeah. But anyway, yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I guess, I mean, if you like flashbacks, you like that, if you want a carbon copy, you're getting that a little bit, I'm sure.
I hope so.
Again,
I hope so.
In the trailer, there are flashbacks.
Yeah,
but that's not really it's not the thing that people want. I don't think, you know what I mean? It's not deep down what people want to see Pedro is like back in time, because it's just going to give them more grief. But yeah, this is a really good episode about grief, essentially, this particular episode. But then I just feel like it goes off the rails a little bit with the travel, and they seem like they're rushing it. That's kind of my thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, fair enough. I can see where you're coming from there. It's interesting because I think we both have like fairly different criticisms of this episode and are kind of landing in a similar place. But yeah, I think it's fine. Like, it's good.
It's good. Yeah,
I think this season has been good, but nothing else in my opinion. Hopefully my opinion is going to change. There's 4 more episodes to go. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm not loving this. And again, I've grown to very much, I don't want to say I dislike episode 2, but again, the further I've gotten from it, the more I've stewed on it, the less I like it. And it's too bad.
Interesting.
It's too bad.
Have you talked to anyone else about it and they agree with you as well, like to reinforce your opinion, or is it just kind of been just your opinion?
Most people are very positive. The people I've spoken to about this are more positive about this. My fiance understands my criticisms. I think she is a little bit more positive on it than I am. She does agree that the game is better, because like she played through it with me. But apart from that,
it's also much different. I mean, it is kind of designed to be a game, to be fair. Like it's a game in a very game way, which is good. I mean, it should kind of stand on its own as a unique thing, I feel like. But yeah, I feel like what adaptation is better so is The Last of Us Part 1. It's far better as a game, far better. It's also a linear storyline. It's just, that's all it is. You're playing a linear storyline, but the gameplay is really, really excellent. And because you're playing as Joel, you feel immersed in that character and what he's going through and what Ellie's going through. And like, it's different in that large way. I don't think the show can ever be as good, ever. There's not a chance in hell kind of thing. But yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like, do you find that you are harder on this though, because you played part 2 so recently, maybe, versus part 1 before you watched the show? Because I feel like it feels like it's the same show. Exactly. It's just a continuation of that show. It doesn't feel worse or better than the first season. That's kind of the way I've been looking at it. Like, it doesn't, like, if you were watching them, like, let's say you never watched this show, and then in 2 years you watched it all at once. We'll see it by the end of the season, but it feels like it would just be the same continuation of the show that we've seen.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm going off memory from over 2 years ago, technically. But I played the first game just before the first season, so I actually played the first game closer to the first season than I played the second game to this second season.
It is also a
fair.
much more linear game, to be fair. Too,
it's shorter. Yeah, it's half the length. So
shorter
like,
as well, but linear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the second one's kind of linear. There's like a couple open areas, but I get where you're coming from. But
No,
ultimately,
I mean linear in the way the plot is told. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I misunderstood. But yeah, yeah, I don't know. I just there's something about this season that's just not hitting the mark for me. Again, I understand I'm very biased, and I'm like, I love the second game.
Me too.
More than I love the first game.
Me too.
But yeah, there's something about this season that it just isn't clicking for me, and I feel like it's not as grounded as the first season was. I might be wrong. Maybe if I rewatch the first season, then I would be more inclined to think otherwise. But yeah, for me, I think this season feels like it's almost been dumbed down for the audience in comparison to what the game showed, and I think. Yeah, again, it's losing its lack of subtlety in the way it's telling its story, and I'm just not loving it because of that. But I can't separate myself from it. I'm being straight up with you, man. I can't. I simply cannot. I usually can, but for this, I just can't. I can't look at it from an outside perspective.
Right.
So
okay, interesting.
But, so what would you?
Alrighty.
Anything else you got about this? Or
That's it. That's it. I'm ready to go. I rate this
episode?
as a 3.5 out of 5. It's good.
Yep,
it's good.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. 3.5. I was thinking 3, but I think if anything, I would just change last week's episode to a 3.
Too late.
And do that. So I've been kind of consistently giving this season the 3.5. It's good. That's all I'm really going to give it.
Okay, sounds good. That makes us a 7 out of 10. Potatoes, if you want.
Yeah,
but yeah, potatoes. Yeah, you got to grow corn, though. You got to grow corn, Adrian.
Yeah, grow corn. That's quick aside. That felt like a scene from Parks and Recreation.
Yeah. And that's why we raised turkeys instead of chickens, or was it the opposite? I don't remember, but yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. I like the town council meeting. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, I gotta stop saying spoilers after we say the scores.
Oh,
it's a stupid mistake. I realized.
Did we spoil anything there? Really?
The town council meeting?
Yeah,
I guess that's not really a spoil.
And you're talking about turkeys and chickens. There's not much, so don't worry.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right. Well, that leaves us at a 7 out of 10, the lowest rated episode for us. For The Last of Us, Season 2, Episode 3. Or, sorry, Season 2, the lowest rated episode. Okay, Adrian, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you taking the time, as always, and I thank you, audience, for joining us. Goodbye.
Take care.